You know, right at the heart of Islam's founding story, in the middle of all the epic battles and the birth of a new world, there was a high-stakes intelligence operation going on. And this is the incredible, untold story of the man who was running it all from the shadows, an agent whose actions would change the course of history.
So, that's the big question we're going to dig into. In a city where your loyalties could get you killed, one of the Prophet Muhammad's closest relatives seemed to be working for the other side. But was he really? Or was he playing a much, much deeper game?
Okay, so to really get this, we've got to go back to Mecca. This is a place where the Prophet's biggest supporters and his absolute worst enemies all came from the exact same place, his own family. More specifically, his uncles.
So you can see, these were the battle lines, and they were drawn right through a single family. You had the clear enemy, Abu Lahab, who hated him. You had the public protector, Abu Talib. The legendary warrior, Hamza. And then you had Abbas. Rich, super smart, and totally unreadable. He was the big question mark.
And this is where things start to get really interesting. See, everyone in Mecca knew about Abu Talib's protection. It was like a giant shield. But Abbas, his support was more like a whisper in the dark. He'd help his nephew, for sure, but always on the down low, never showing his hand. So why all the secrecy? That was the first clue that something else was going on here.
But then, everything changes. Abu Talib, the great protector, he dies. And just like that, the Prophet's life in Mecca becomes completely untenable. The danger ramps up, and he's forced to look for help outside the city. This sets the stage for a secret meeting that's going to change everything.
I mean, just picture this scene for a second. It's the middle of the night, outside Mecca. 75 people from a rival city, Medina, have snuck out of their camp to meet with the Prophet. They're about to offer him protection and a new home. The risk here is off the charts. But turns out the Prophet didn't show up by himself.
And who steps out of the shadows? Abbas, the guy who, remember, still hadn't even publicly become a Muslim yet. And he's the one brokering this massive deal. He's testing them, making sure they're for real. He's acting like the head of the family, but he's also being a sharp negotiator, making absolutely sure his nephew is going to be safe.
So after that secret pledge, the Muslims make their move to Medina. But Abbas, he stays behind in Mecca. And when the first huge battle breaks out, the Battle of Badr, guess where Abbas is? He's fighting in the Meccan army against the Muslims.
Right before the fighting starts, the Prophet gives this completely baffling command. He tells his own soldiers not to kill the very men marching out to destroy them, specifically anyone from his own clan. You can just imagine his companions looking at each other, totally confused. I mean, think about it. Does that make any military sense at all? You're in a battle for your own survival, and your general tells you to go easy on some of the enemy fighters? It seems crazy. But this order, this is the key that unlocks the whole mystery.
And here's the kicker. The Muslims win the battle, and Abbas is taken prisoner. Right away, he goes to his nephew and says, "Hey, I'm a Muslim." But the Prophet's response is ice cold. He demands this massive ransom from his super rich uncle. Now, this wasn't punishment, it was all an act. It was the perfect way to protect Abbas's cover. He had to go back to Mecca looking like a bitter, defeated enemy, not a secret friend.
Okay, so what was really going on? Why the strange order in battle? Why the secrecy? Why the bizarre ransom? It's time to put all the pieces of this puzzle together.
The simple truth is this. Abbas was never an enemy. He wasn't even neutral. He was an intelligence asset, operating deep behind enemy lines. He was Islam's very first secret agent.
His mission was simple on paper, but incredibly dangerous to pull off. He had to stay in Mecca, use his connections as a wealthy businessman to find out what the enemy was planning, and then secretly send that intel back to Medina. Fighting at Badr, getting captured, it was all part of maintaining that crucial cover story. And let me tell you, his intelligence was a total game changer. Over and over again, secret messages from Abbas gave the Muslims a huge strategic advantage. He'd send warnings about army sizes, surprise attacks, which allowed them to prepare and ultimately to survive. So for years, Abbas is this ghost, operating completely in the shadows. But after the Muslims finally conquer Mecca, his secret mission is over. It was time for the spy to step out into the sunlight and become a warrior. So, not long after taking Mecca, the new Muslim army faces this huge force of enemy tribes at a place called Hunayn, and they walk right into a perfect ambush. Arrows start raining down, chaos erupts, and the army just breaks.
Soldiers start running for their lives, leaving the Prophet almost completely alone and surrounded. In this moment of total disaster, the Prophet turns to his former spy. Now, Abbas was known for having this incredibly booming, powerful voice, and on command, he just lets out a roar that echoes through the entire valley. It cuts through the panic, stops the soldiers in their tracks, and rallies them back to the fight. They turn around, charge back in, and turn what was a certain defeat into a massive victory.
But the story doesn't stop there. Not even close. Abbas's service had helped secure the future of Islam, but his name was about to echo through history in an even bigger way.
Fast forward almost a century. The direct descendants of this same man, Abbas, they rise up and establish a brand new Islamic empire. And what do they name it? They name it after their great-grandfather, the Abbasid Caliphate.
And we're not talking about some small, short-lived kingdom. The Abbasids ruled for about 500 years. That's one of the longest-lasting and most influential empires in the history of the world.
From their incredible new capital city, Baghdad, the descendants of this secret agent kicked off the Islamic Golden Age. We're talking about this explosion of science, medicine, math, and philosophy that lit up the entire world for centuries. And all of it, you can trace the name right back to the man who once played a dangerous game in the shadows of Mecca.
It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? History always remembers the kings and the generals, the people standing in the spotlight. But the story of Abbas is this powerful reminder that sometimes the moves that change the world are made by the people that nobody ever sees.